Okay, everybody, thanks for coming. It's really an honor to have Rabbi Nati Helfgot, who's been in camp for, I can't remember how many years, Rabbi Helfgot. It's like over 20 years you've been coming to camp?
Yeah, well, I guess this year doesn't count, but 22 years.
Amazing. So we're basically on the same track virtually, the two of us. I think we're like the longest, almost consecutive people. Rabbi Helfgot has done many important things, teaching and running programs at SAR, at Chovei Torah, and as you can read the bio online. But from our perspective, most importantly, is serving as a scholar in residence for many years at Camp Stone. And it's really just a pleasure to have Rabbi Helfgot give us a shiur tonight. And it's certainly been a pleasure over the years to have Rabbi Helfgot in our lives. So without further ado, not to take away any more time, Rabbi Helfgot, thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Ravadi. It's wonderful to see everybody. And I wanted to do something a little different tonight. I wanted to learn with you a piece of Gemara, a piece of Agadita, and then do it in a couple of readings. We'll do Kriya Rishona, and then we'll do a Kriya Shniya, and then we'll do another Kriya. And if people want to chime in some ideas as well, that's great. First of all, I just want to make sure everybody sees it on the share screen. If everybody sees the Gemara that I have. Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is a famous Gemara. Many of us, if you're doing Daf Yomi, you learned it a few, I don't know, months ago, weeks ago. I don't know. I'm not following Daf Yomi, but Daf Yomi is at the end of Shabbat, and it's a famous Agadita about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the cave. And I thought when we get to some of the messages of this Agadita, it's certainly related to a lot of the hashkafat olam and the tensions that we all struggle with as part of Bnei Akiva and part of Camp Stone and Torah v'Avodah. So in a very sharp way. And in another way, you could call this Agadita the education of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Okay, so we're going to look at this famous Gemara towards the bottom of Daf Lamed Gimel. Thank you. Towards the bottom of Daf Lamed Gimel, and we'll again, like I said, we'll do the first Kriya, and then we'll do the second Kriya. So the Gemara is in the middle of a sugya, and it quoted a certain person named Yehuda ben Gerim, and then the Gemara says, "V'amai karu le rosh hamidabrim b'chol makom." Why did they call him the first one, the first among equals? The Yatvi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon. So there were three rabbis: Rabbi Yehuda ben Eli, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Yativ Yehuda ben Gerim Gabayhu, and this fellow Yehuda ben Gerim was with them as well. Interesting that he's not called rabbi. He's just Yehuda ben Gerim. Interesting name also. If you think about it, it's almost a playful name. Yehuda, which of course is Yehudi, a Jew, ben Gerim, the son of Gerim. It's an interesting little play here. Fatach Rabbi Yehuda ve'amar. So Rabbi Yehuda got up and said, so he's the Rosh HaMedabrim, so he always starts. Kama na'im ma'asem shel umazu. How beautiful are the actions of this nation. Now, if we don't continue reading, you don't know. There's a certain ambiguity. What is umazu? Which nation? Does it refer to Am Yisrael? Does it refer to the power that controls Eretz Yisrael at the time? And why are they great? Tiknu shvakim. They built shvakim. They built marketplaces. Tiknu gsharim. They built bridges and aqueducts. Tiknu mer chatzaot. They built bathhouses. Now, when you read that, you obviously understand that it's not reference to Am Yisrael, it's a reference to Rome. These rabbis lived at the time of the Roman conquest of Eretz Yisrael, some of which was very difficult, especially during the Bar Kokhba revolt. So Rabbi Yehuda set a paean to Roman culture and Roman ingenuity. They built marketplaces. They built gsharim, tiknu merchatzaot. Rabbi Yossi shatak. Rabbi Yossi, upon hearing this, was silent. So Rabbi Yehuda was super positive. Rabbi Yossi was quiet. Na'ana Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai ve'amar. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai said, Kol ma shetiknu lo tiknu lo tzorach atzman. There is nothing to praise about Rome. Everything that they built for themselves. Tiknu shvakim lo shiv bahem zonot, to put prostitutes there. Merchatzaot la'adein bahen be'atzman. They built merchatzaot. They built bathhouses in order to beautify themselves. Gesharim litol mehem meches. They built bridges so that they would be able to more easily enter the hinterlands and collect taxes. Interesting. Notice also that except for the first two lines, which seem to come from the Stamaim, from the editors of the Talmud, it's all in Hebrew. The framing is in Aramaic, but this is all in Hebrew, which itself tells you something interesting. Halach Yehuda ben Gerim v'siper divrem. So Yehuda ben Gerim was a blabbermouth, and he told this little episode and the back and forth between the rabbis in the public. V'nishma'u l'malchut, and it got back to the powers that be. It got back to the Roman authorities. Amru, and they said, Yehuda she'ilah, Yehuda who praised and uplifted Rome, Yitaleh, he should be uplifted and made important. Yossi sheshatak, Yigaleh l'tzipori, he should have to exile himself to Tzipori. Shimon shegina, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, who was very vocally against and criticized Rome, Yeharei. So he should be killed. That's the first. I put little aleph bet. It's not in the Gemara. I put that because this is the way I want to divide each keta of this agarata. So Shimon there's a wanted poster for Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Notice quickly the story changes to Aramaic, which again, as I said, is an important thing. When you learn and you want to see the development and the construction of a sugya, what's in Aramaic, what's in Hebrew and Aramaic, what's in pure Hebrew, tells you something. Azal hu ubre. So Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai and his son, the son, who we'll find out his name is Elazar, Tesho Bey Midrasha. So they first hide in the base medrash. So the first act is to leave the world of the discussion outside, and they run to the base medrash. Kol yoma havamati lahu devitu rifta v'kuza demaya v'karchi. Every day, the wife of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai would bring them a loaf of bread and a container or a cruse of water, and they would eat. It's a classic rabbinic term, karche rifta, to eat. Ki takif gezirta, when the Romans started to make it even more difficult, amar le lebre, so he said to his son, nashim da'atan kalalem. This is one of the places where the Gemara talks about this. This is one of the places where that phrase is used. Women are da'atan kala, whatever that means. Dilma mitzari le, it could be that they will abuse her. Umegalia lan, and she will reveal to the Roman authorities where we are. So what happened? Second stage. Azlu tashu b'ma'arta. They went and hid in a cave. So again, parallel. They went to the base medrash, and then they go into the cave. So again, you notice the progression. It's very much like in the story of Yonah. Like Yonah went down to Tarshish, and then he goes down into the boat, and then he goes down into the belly of the boat, and then he goes into this progression of going further and further from society. Here they're talking to people, schmoozing with people. Here he runs into the Beis Medrash, and here they run into a cave. Itrachish nisa, ibru lehu charuva ve'ena demaya. So there's no woman around to come and bring them food. So a nace occurred, and they lived on carob and ena demaya. If you look throughout Shas, generally charuvim, carobs, were not something that you normally ate. Carobs were food that was eaten by animals. So they have minimal subsistence, and they have a spring of water. So they have charuvim and ena demaya. Okay. V'havu mishalchu minayhu. V'havu yatvi ad tzavarayhu b'chala. They would throw their clothing away, and they would be ensconced until their neck in sand. Okay? So they're not wearing clothing, and they're ensconced in sand. Kula yome garse. They learned the entire day. Be'idan saluye, when it came time to daven, labshi mikasu, they would wear their clothing, umitzalu. V'hadar mishalchu minayhu, ki heicha delo livlu. The minute they finished davening, they would throw off their clothing in order that the clothing would last a long time. They wouldn't need clothing. They didn't need to go online and shop on Amazon because the clothing lasted for a long time. It yavu, tresar, shane, v'ma'arta. So they stayed for 12 years. 12 years or 13 years? 12 years in the Ma'ara. Asa Eliyahu, who of course always is the bond between heaven and earth. And of course, Eliyahu is an important person here because he also lived a very similar life. Remember the story where he ran away and there was a miracle that sustained him. So it's very nice that they have a bosom buddy in Eliyahu. Vikama pitcha de ma'arta. Eliyahu does not go into the me'ara. He stands by the opening of the cave. Amar, and he says, Man ludai lebar Yochai. Who will tell Bar Yochai the miskesar ubetil gezirte? Who will tell Bar Yochai that the Caesar is dead and bitil gezera? Okay. Next stage. Nefiku. They go out of the cave. Chazu inish de kokarbi vizare. They see people who are sowing, who are lacharosh, vizari, and they're planting. Amrin, menichin chayolim v'oskim b'chayisha. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son are very disdainful of these people. These people, they're not osek b'talmud Torah, and they're oskim b'chayisha. Kol bokom shenotnim einayim, any place that they put their eyes, miyad nisraf. People died. Yotzta bat kol v'amar lahem, lachariv olami yitzaten? You've come to destroy my world? Chizru l'ma'aratchem, go back to your cave. Hadar azalu, ityatvu treite yarchei shata, they stayed 12 months. Amri, they said to themselves, mishpat b'shem b'gehinom shnei masar chodesh. So, to stay 12 months is the sentence of Rishon. Yotzta bat kol v'amrat, sumi ma'aratchem, you can go out. Nifaku, they go out. Kol heicha dahavi machei Rabbi Lezer, wherever Rabbi Lezer continued to destroy, having masei Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon would restore. Amar lo b'ni dai la'olam ani ve'ata. I and you were enough for the world. Bahadi panya demale shabta. At that moment, or at that Erev Shabbos, excuse me, at that Erev Shabbos, chazu ahu saba davinoke tre midane asa. They saw a Saba, a certain old man, who was carrying 2 myrtle branches. V'rahit bein hashmashos, and he was running right during bein hashmashos. Amar lehei hainam lamelach, why are you carrying these 2? Amar lehu l'chvoid Shabbos. This is for Chavod Shabbos. V'tiske le bechad, Why don't you simply do one? So he said, Chad kineged zachar v'chad kineged shamar. Amar le lebrei. So Shimon Bar Yochai say, Chazi kama chavivin mitzvot al Yisrael. Look how beautiful the mitzvot, beloved are the mitzvot in Israel. Ityatva da'atayhu. So his das was meyushav, and he was very put at ease. Fifth part of the story, or fifth keta. Shama Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair Chatne. So Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, who was the son-in-law of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, unefak la'ape, and he went out to greet them. Aili lebei bane. He took them to the merchatzaot. Bei bane is the bathhouse. Havi ka'arich le lebisre. So Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair was giving him a massage on his back, on his basar. He saw that he had little indentations because they lived for 12 years. They lived in the, in the ground. So they had ridges in their back. Havi kabaki. So Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair cried, the kanatrin dimat ene v'kamtzuchele. And so he cried, and the tears went into the crevices. Amar lo, oilo shiraiti chabikach. Woe that I saw you. Amar lo, no. Ashrecha shiritain bikach. You should, it's beautiful. She'ilma le lo ra'ita bikach. If you didn't see me this way, lo matzati bikach. To be kara, because it was a good thing that I was in the ground for 12 years. Originally, kiavi makshi Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai kusha. Originally, when I used to offer a kusha, having mefarik le Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair tresar peruke, you would offer 12 solutions. L'sof, but now kiavi makshi Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair kusha. Now, when you give a question, having mefarik le Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai esrin ba'arba peruke, I can offer 24 answers. So I've really improved in my Torah study. Amar, hoil v'itrachish nisa. So Rosh Hashanah said, since a miracle occurred to me, Ezal itkin milta, let me go and fix something. Tichtiv, he says, just like my predecessor Yaakov, Vayavo Yaakov Shalem, the Amar Rav. Rav said, which is again interesting because Rav, of course, lives 70 years after Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So this is obviously the editing of the Baal HaSugya, who puts in this later Amoraic material into this Agadic story about Tanoim. Shalem begufo, shalem b'mon, shalem b'teiraso. Vayichan sham pnei ha'ir. What's the second part of the pasuk? Amarav matbeya tikein lahem, u'shmuel amar shvakim tikein lahem, v'yochtam amar chatzot tikein lahem. Amar. So Rosh Hashanah said, just like Yaakov Avinu made a takana, I need to make a takana. Amar ika milsa deboy litkune. Is there something that needs to be fixed? There is a place where there's a question about tuma. The itlu tsara, and there's tsar to the kohanim, there's tsar to the kohanim that they have to go around it. Lakufe. Amar, Ika, so Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, with his Talmudic knowledge, solves the problem. Ika inish diyadi di tchazik hachatara. Is there anybody around who knows that this place had a chazak of being tahar? Amarle Ahusaba. So the old man, another old man, said, Kan kitzeitz ben zakai turmise truma. I have a tradition that in this place, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai used to take up lupines of truma. He used to eat. So obviously it was tahar. Avad iu nami hacha. Kol hecha davi kashi tahare. V'chol hecha davi rafe tzaini. So what did he do? Every place that the ground was hard, he was mitaher. Wherever it was soft, tzaine, he would mitzayin that probably there was a kever there. Okay, last part of the sugya. Amar hahu saba. Tiher ben Yochai beit hakvarot. So another Saba said, or that Saba said, oh, Ben Yochai goes around being mitar beis hakvaros. He made fun of him. You can't do this. Amar le. So Shimon Bar Yochai says, if you were not with us, and you had not, voted with us, yafeh ata omer. Achshav shayita imanu b'nei imanu. Yomru zonot mefarka kod zo. So he says, he makes a kal v'chomer. Prostitutes help each other. Prostitutes, they give they they give each other they help each other with their makeup. Shouldn't one rabbi help another? What are you trying to undercut me? Yohiv Bey Eine v'noch nafshe. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai gave him the death stare and he died. Nafik l'shuka. So he went back to the shuk. Chazi laHyehuda ben Gerim. Amar adayin yesh lazeh ba'olam. This guy is still around. Natan bo einav v'aso gal shel hatzamo. He gave him the death stare and he turned him into a pile of bones. Okay, that's our initial reading of the story. Let's go a little deeper. Now, when we go back and read the story, we notice the story has three parts to it. We have the introduction, which is the reka, which sets the whole story up. That's this keta aleph. We then have the second part of the story, which is really the story of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai removing himself from society. Here he starts in society. They're somewhere and they're talking. They're obviously not in the Beis Medrash because only afterwards does he go to the Beis Medrash. So they're probably on the street somewhere. They're in a coffee house, socially distant, and they're talking. And they're schmoozing. Then you go into the Beit Medrash, and then he goes further into the Me'ara. And this is all about leaving society and then coming back to society. This is all part of the middle section. In the middle section, you leave society in stages. First, he goes to the Beis Medrash. Then he goes into the Me'ara, further and further. And the last part of the story is what we would, in a certain sense, say, going back into the world, which starts with he returns to the world, and he's mitakein something in the world, and of course the end of the story, which I don't know if we're going to get to and talk about, where he meets up with Yehuda ben Gerim again in the shuk. Yehuda ben Gerim started this whole thing. At the beginning, we started with Yehuda ben Gerim, and we end with the death of Yehuda ben Gerim. So this is very clear. The middle part of the story is very interestingly, from here through here, is really, in many ways, almost a chiastic structure. You have, you have in the middle of the story, he goes to the Beis Medrash. So we'll call that running away from the world. Then you have going into the Me'ara. So we'll call this A. We'll call this A or Aleph or 1, whatever you want to call it. He then goes into the Me'ara. We'll call that B. But he goes out of the Me'ara, and then he goes back into the Me'ara. Chizru l'ma'aratchem. So you have going to the Beis Medrash, then you have going into the Me'ara 1, then going into the Me'ara 2. So we'll call this A, B, B. And then, so to speak, coming back into society. Thank you, Ima. Going back into the society. Going back and seeing people working.
I was going to say Amen, but then we had that whole discussion with Rabbi Weider, and I don't know if it's an Amen Yisoma because it's over Zoom.
Okay. Say Amen.
Not a chiyuv, right?
Okay. Okay. And so you have this structure. You also have, as you look at the story, it's again, if we look at it carefully, the story is a story about these three rabbis during the Roman times. And you have your attention. Rabbi Yehuda values the tiknu shvakim, tiknu ksharim, tiknu merchatzaot. So you have three things. You have the shvakim, you have the ksharim, the merchatzaot. You have three rabbis. Again, this is part of the literary structure of many agadot. You have three rabbis. You have three things. Three rabbis do three different things. Shatak. So Rabbi Yehuda spoke. Rabbi Yossi shatak. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai criticized. Then you have, of course, and again, it's interesting. You also see, notice, sorry, I made it too big. Sorry, now I made it too small. Sorry. Oh, got to make it big again. Can you see it? Not so, okay, I got to make it big again. Oh, here, I figured out how to make it big. Okay, back to big. Okay. Notice also the structure. We said that at the beginning it starts with Yehuda ben Gerim, but the story also starts with Tiknu, right? Rabbi Yehuda says Tiknu Shvakim, Tiknu Ksharim, Tiknu Merchatzaot. And the story ends, almost ends, with, he says, when he gets to the last part, what we called part C at the beginning, so Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai says, since a miracle occurred, Atkin Milta, let me also fix. Just like at the beginning, we're talking about Tiknu, he says also Atkin. And at the end, there's also three takanot. V'amarav, Shalem begufo, Shalem b'memono, Shalem b'torato. So Yaakov came Shalem. Shalem begufo, Shalem b'memono, Shalem b'torato, which is of course interesting. He came back whole, both in his body, as well as in his money, as well as in his Torah, which is of course very interesting. Vayichan et pnei ha'ir, amarav matbeya tikein lahem, Shmuel amar shvakim tikein lahem. At the beginning we talked about shvakim, and we talked about ksharim, and at the end we talk about merchatzaot, and we talk about shvakim, just like there we talked about merchatzaot and shvakim right at the beginning. We basically, that's called an inclusio. We end where we began. And it's also three, the nice structure of three. But let's go a little deeper beyond these kind of technical analysis. Let's go a little deeper beyond the structural stuff. The story is about the tension between what we would call Torah va'avodah. How do you interact between Torah and the mundane world in which we find ourselves? Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, at the beginning, certainly articulates a view which is what we would call a very elitist view, a very unique view. And Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai here is l'shitato. If anyone studied Brachot, Daf Lamed Hey, it says, V'asafta diganecha v'tiroshcha. So Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai said, if you go and work in the field, what's going to be with Torah? He said you should study Torah and malachtecha nase salidei acherim. Remember that famous Gemara of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai in Daf Lamed Hey in Brachot. So Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai says the material world that is built by the Romans is all treif. It's all bad. Everything they built, letzorech atzman. Lo shiv bahen zonot. Merchatzaot la'adein bahen be'atzman. Gisharim litol mehen meches. So Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai decides to basically shut himself off from this world. He goes first to the Beis Medrash. The first stage is to leave the world of the shvakim and to enter the world of the Beis Medrash. Now, in this world of the Beis Medrash, you're still connected to the outside world. Because how are you connected to the outside world? Because every day, Havimati lahu devitu, his wife came and would meet him and bring him bread and water. Now, interesting. She brings him bread and a jar of water. Notice the text makes it very clear. Bread is a man-made thing. It's not natural to the world. Chuza demaya, a whatchamacallit, a vase of water is also man-made. So there's still connection to the world of humanity. First of all, the human connection, the most basic connection of husband and wife. There's also bread and water. And he would eat. But it's a minimal connection. At this point, he says, I'm afraid for my wife. Dilma mitzari le umegalyalan. She's not going to be able to stand the torture and the abuse. So he goes further mitnatek from the world. Aslu tishu b'ma'arta. He goes into a cave. A cave is a naturally made, they didn't have the Gush Etzion tunnels in those days. Whatever caves they had were not man-made. They were caves that were natural. Itrachish le nisa ibralahu charuva. Now, some literary scholars have pointed out, we'll see it in a second. So he gets charuvim, which I told you is animal food, and a spring water. So notice, instead of a chuza demaya, you have eina demaya. You have a spring. We're being mitnatek from the natural world. He would throw off his clothing. It's like Adam before civilization. You're not wearing clothing. It's before you enter the world of Eitz Hadat Tov Hara. It's before the world of Kain and Tuval Kain. And they would sit, haviyatve, just like originally they sat, ad savarayu b'chala. They become one with the earth. Okay? As many people point out, many literary scholars, they become one with the earth. They're totally removed from human civilization. And they would learn Torah, and the only time they would stop would be to daven. So they daven and learn and daven and learn. And they sat there for 12 years. Ata Eliyahu v'kama pitcha de ma'arta. Amar man lo doy l'bayachai demit kesu batil gzirt. So now what happens? They come out. Eliyahu, of course, interestingly enough, they're so removed that even Eliyahu doesn't come into the Me'arah, which is very striking. Eliyahu, who is a figure who bonds heaven and earth, these people are so not recognizing the role of earth. Nefaku, they go out, chazu inish the kakarvi v'zar. They see people who are planting. Amri menichin chaye oilam v'oskin b'chaye shah. Kol makom shenotni mehem yad nisraf. So it would burn. Yotzta bat kol v'amar lahem. Lachariv olami yitzatem. So again, literary scholars have noted there's a wonderful play on word here. Charuvim, they ate charuvim, and you're coming lachariv olami. You're coming to destroy my world. Lachariv olami yitzatem. Also notice, they talk about chaye olam, but God says lachriv olami yitzatem, meaning they're not machshiv the world, but God is machshiv the world. Lachriv olami, the world that you're destroying, that you're poo-pooing and saying they're just involved, they're balabatim, they don't have anything of value. That's olami, that's my world. Chizru l'maratchem. Hadar azul iyatvu tresa yarchishata. And clearly, the Agadita indicates that they recognize that they've sinned because they say, Mishpat Rishon B'Gehenim Shnei Masar Chodesh. We're 12 months, we did something wrong. Yotzta bat kol v'amra, okay, now that you recognize them, Tsu'u mimaratchem, Nafaku, Rebbe Lezer still hasn't gotten the message. He needs to have summer school. But Rabbi Shimon seems to have gotten the message, and he recognizes Dai la'olam ani v'ata. It's enough that we are totally involved in Talmud study. We can't expect that for everybody else. There has to be a place in the world for Torah v'avoda. There has to be a place in the world for people to exist in a normal fashion. So what happened? V'hadipanya d'malei shabta, and Shabbos, of course, is me'ein olam haba. So right before the Jew is going to stop working, it's very appropriate. He's carrying 2 myrtles. Jeffrey Rubenstein, one of the great scholars of Agadita, points out that this may be a play on the famous Medrash Agadita about, remember, the 4 kinds of Jews. And one of the kinds of Jews is the Hadassim, the Ha'asa. And he's the Jew who doesn't have a lot of learning, but he has mitzvot. So it's interesting that V'roit ben hashmashos, Amar lehani lamalach l'chvod Shabbos. And he learns Chad kineged Zochar v'Chad kineged Shamar. Chazi kami chavivin mitzvot al Yisrael, which is a nice little play. Before it was, at the beginning, the story was Kama na'in ma'aseim shel umazu. And it turned out that he was talking about Rome. Here it's Kama na'im, in a sense, Kama chavivin mitzvot al Yisrael. You see that the plane Pashat Yid, it's a Hasidic story. The plane Pashat Yid is also valuable. The one who works the whole week, don't think that he just works for the sake of working. He works in order to put food on the table, but his essence is about Shabbos. He's just as spiritual as you who learn all day in the sand. It yatve da'ataihu. So their das was miyushav, which of course the story started where they were yativ, they were sitting, and they were then sitting yatvi ad savarayu b'chala. They were sitting in the sand, and now it yatvi daitayu. And now is the process of returning back to society. So first they met the peasant, then Shama Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair Chatne. Notice the family comes back into the picture. He was mitnatek from his wife, but slowly he's coming back to the family. So he's leaving. Aili lebei bane. He goes to the merchatz. The merchatzaot that he poo-pooed at the beginning are the merchatzaot that are now going to take care of him and nurse him back to health. He had all kinds of little ridges. And he cried, Amarle, woe that I saw you. He says, yes, but I studied Torah. And at this point, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai recognizes that he has to, instead of viewing the world as only a place which has no value, he also needs to be mitake milta. He has to use his Torah for productive ends, not to destroy the world, not to look at the world with a raised nose and look down on everybody, but his Torah can also be mitake milsa. Now, he's not going to build shvakim and gisharim and merchatzaot, but he will be able to be mitaking something. And why should he be mitaking? Dichtiv vayavo Yaakov shalem. Now, this is gewaltig. It's Rav, who lived 70 years later. It's true, but Rav, what's he talking about? He's talking about a story about Yaakov. When does Yaakov ba shalem? He ba shalem after his encounter with Esav and his encounter with the nocturnal, right? And Dinah, right? And all that story. This is after Esav. Who is Esav in rabbinic literature? Rome. It's gewaltig. They took the Stamaim, or whoever organized this sugya, took a Amoraic Agadita about Yaakov after he met Esav, the Amarav Shalem Begufo, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who had all these ridges in his body, Shalem B'Mamono, and Shalem B'Toraso, Vayichan et Pnei Ha'ir, Amarav Matbea Tikein Lahem, Shmuel Amar Shvakim Tikein Lahem, Rabbi Yochanan Merchatzaot. Yaakov was metakein physical things, and it was still Shalem B'Toraso. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai can also be metakein. But Rabbi Shimon Amar Ika Milsa Debai L'Tekune, Amar Ika Duchta D'it Bei Sfeik Tuma. V'itlu Tzara L'Kohanim. There's Tsar to the Kohanim. At the beginning of the story, we talked about the Tsar of the woman. We talked about the Tsar of Shimon Bar Yochai, and we end with the Tsar of the Kohanim. And he fixes it. And he fixes Ika Inish Diyadi Ditchazik, and he sees Amar Le Ha'usaba Kan Kitzeitz Ben Zakai Tarmusei Truma. Tarmusei Truma are things that you plant. And he finds a way to solve the problem. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? I want to spend the last few minutes just showing you that the Bavli was based on a source which is, 200 years before at least, and yet it's a little different. And again, for those who want to play and notice how elaborate the Bavli added to the story, the kernel of the story, which we find in Yerushalmi. Does anyone have any questions first?
I was just going to ask a question because I picked up on what you were trying to have us do and break it up between the Hebrew and the Aramaic.
Yes.
If you try to construct the narrative based on the Hebrew subsection, you can't do that from the text in the Bavli. There are too many gaps, and it doesn't.
Correct. And you notice this part is all in Hebrew, which is basically a setup for what I want to show you now. Again, I don't have the time to do the whole thing, but the earlier source, it's also in Eretz Yisrael Midrashim, early Eretz Yisrael Midrashim as well, but it's in Shvius Perek Tes. So the Mishnah, the Gemara there says, notice this entire section is missing. This entire little discussion in Hebrew is missing from the Yerushalmi. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Ovid Tamir b'ma'arta tlas eser shanim b'ma'aras charuvin detruma ad shehele gufo chaluda. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he hid in a cave. His son is not around for 13 years in a cave with charuvin. Notice the jumble of the elements in the story of truma until his body started to get chaluda, like rust. L'sov tlas ashar shnin amar lina nafik chami makala alma. Let's go see what's going on in the world. Nafik v'yasiv la puma de ma'arta. Chama chad sayid. He saw or he heard chad sayid sifrin. Paras mitsudase. Shama bart kala amra. He heard a bat kol saying, Dimus v'ishtezve tzipor. Basically, God said, the bird should fly free. Amar sipor bil miblade shmaya lo yibada kolshkein barnash. Without God determining that the tzipor should be captured, it won't be captured. So certainly a barnash, a human being. Basically, he says, you see how intense I just want to make sure I have the correct translation here. You see how intense the hashgacha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even a bird won't be captured, certainly a human being. A bird won't die. Continues. He saw Kadchama de Shadchan Mile Amar Nichot Nichme Bahadein Dimusin de Tveria. So when he saw that things quieted down, so obviously something had happened, which the Yerushalmi had not expanded on. Let's go down and go to the baths of Tiberias. Amar tzrichin anu lasos takana. But before he went there, he said, we need to make a takana. Kamo she'asu avosena rishonim. Vayichan et pnei ha'ir. She'osin itlusin umochrim b'shuk. Amri nitche tveria v'avinasin termutzen umekatze tzumaklen. I'll give you the exact translation. He took lupines. He took those same things, sliced and scattered them, and whenever there was a corpse, it would float and rise to the surface. Wow. Another nace. Chamte chad kute. A certain Samaritan saw him. Amar lina. Azil mafli bahadan saba di Yudai. Let us go make fun of this Jew, this elderly Jew. Nasiv chad mit azal v'tamari. So he put a corpse and he buried it in the place which Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had said was tahor. Amar le lo dachit atar palan. So he said to him, did you not mitaher this place? And yet I can find va'ana mafik l'chulman taman. I'll show you that there's a dead person here. Safa Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai beruach hakodesh shenatnu sham. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai saw beruach hakodesh. Amar gozer ani alecha ha'elyonim sheyerdu v'latachtonim shialu. And that's exactly what happened. The dead body went up and lived, and this guy died. so at that point, he said, and this is what happened. And then the story ends when mi'avar kume migdal Hashem akola desafar mahar bayochai midchi Tveria amale yavo elai im lo shamati shetveria atida litar afilu kein lo himnin havat miad nasa gal shel. It's almost basically he passed by this place called Migdal, which is up in the Galil. He heard a voice saying, "Here is Bar Yochai," again making fun of him, who purified Tveria. He said this guy should die, and that's what happened. He became a Gal Shel Atzamos. Now again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you notice that the Yerushalmi is a totally different version of this story. Totally different version of this story. It doesn't have the whole framework of this back and forth about Rome. It doesn't have them with the family and the hitnatkut from the family. It doesn't have the interaction with the peasant Jew. It's a totally different agenda. The story in Yerushalmi in its original modality is actually a story about hashgacha and about the power of hashgacha and about miracle workers. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is a miracle worker. It's a Choni HaMa'agel kind of story almost. That's not the agenda of the story in the Bavli. The editors of the Bavli took this kernel of a story and were mitlabesh with it, with all kinds of interesting additions. For example, this story about Tiknu Lahem Gesharim, Tiknu Lahem, for those who know Shas, is actually lifted from another place in Shas. Anybody know where in Shas it's lifted from? Those who did a Daf Yomi last time. It's lifted from Avodah Zarah Daf Bet. Okay, let me see if I can find it quickly. If you open up, let's get Avodah Zarah Daf Bet. Avodah Zarah Daf Bet Amud Aleph. Daf Bet Amud Bet. Daf Bet. I'm going to, we'll do the Daf Yomi. Avodah Zarah Daf Bet. Yeah, I took it out before. Okay, so I'm going to share screen again. It's a very famous Agadita talking about the Umos Ha'olam come and they want sechar from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And they gather, Be'ir Buvia, and they say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know, so God says, Amar Lahem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, B'mai asaktem. What have you been doing all these years that you merit to get Olam Haba? Omrim Lefanav, Ribono Shel Olam, Harbe Shvakim Tiknanu. We built a lot of Shvakim. Harbe Merchatzaot Asinu. Harbe Kesev Zahav Yirbinu. V'chulam lo asinu elo b'shvil Yisrael kedei she'yit'asku b'Torah. We only did it for the sake of the Torah. Amar lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shotim sheba'olam, kol ma she'asitem l'tzorech atzmechem asitem. Tikantem shvakim lo shiv bahem zonot, merchatzaot la'adein bahen atzmechem. Kesev zahav shalihu, shneimar liya kesef v'liya zahav, ne'um Hashem. And this, of course, Yatsa Malchus Raomi, Yatsu Bepachei Nefesh, Yatsa Malchus Romi, V'nichnesa Malchut Paras. So Malchus Romi goes out. So obviously this was whoever created the final version of the Agadita made this tarovet and used it and put into the mouth of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai the words of God. But again, the goal of the story, our story, is to teach Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son about that not everybody can sit in a cave and learn all the time, and that's not the kind of world that God wants. God wants a world of what we would call Torah v'avodah, and that's the kind of world that most people can exist in. And not only that, and again, I should have pointed out also, it's interesting, the zonot at the beginning and the zonot at the end of the story, whatever. It's all about the literary structure. So what we did tonight was we learned Agadata in depth. And we looked at it structurally, we looked at it literarily, we looked at it theologically. And I think when you study Agadata with that kind of depth, you get a lot out of it. And there's a lot of richness. Thank God there's a lot of wonderful, both traditional scholarship, traditional commentaries on the Agadata, whether it's the Maharal, or whether it's the Maharsha, or whether it's Rav Kook in Ein Ayah. And there's also a tremendous amount of modern academic scholarship, which also helps in learning Agadata. And it really is, when you learn Agadata and you learn the stories, there's a richness and there's a joy that can come out of that learning. And that's what I wanted to do tonight with you. For me, it was enjoyable also because instead of giving one of the packaged shiurim from the freezer, it was a chance to look at the Agadata again with fresh eyes. I hadn't looked at it in many, many years, and to read it again and go back and learn it again. So I thank everybody, and I wish you everybody a great Male Panya de Shabbata. I wish you all a great Zachar v'Shamar. I wish you all a great Torah v'Avodah that you are fulfilling beautifully and imparting to our children, including our children. My wife is here next to me, learning with us. Here she is, saying hi. So Shabbat Shalom to everybody. There's nothing like Agadata. Yes, Noah Bar Shane. There's nothing like learning Agadata in depth. That's for sure. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Anybody has any questions before we sign off for the evening?
Okay, so the reason why we couldn't reconstruct anything from the Hebrew is because you're saying the Hebrew is all redactional over an Aramaic source. But who's doing the redaction in Hebrew?
Oh, that's a good question. The source in Avodah Zarah is in Hebrew, so they took it from the Hebrew. Again, that's the mysterious, editors of the final version of the Talmud. Was it the later Amoraim? Was it the Stamaim? Was it the Saboraim? Your guess is as good as mine. You can get a PhD in this topic, and you'll write a book, and I'll invite you to my shul to write it, to talk about it. Im Yirtzeh Hashem.
What about the other Hebrew phrases that creep their way into the Agadata?
Agadata is often Hebrew and Aramaic together. But when you have a Keta, which is just Hebrew or just Aramaic, that's interesting.
Right. Where can I read more about this? Cool.
So there is a number of wonderful books that have been published from different angles. You have books which take a much more historical point. This is a real, it's not a fake screen. This is a real screen.
I'm gonna carry, there we go.
Okay.
Going to the bookcase, ready?
Going to the bookcase.
There we go.
So this is a wonderful book. It's called Agadot V'Toldotehem. Very good book about the history of Agadot.
Yosef Heinemann.
Yosef Heinemann. You have the book by the Gadol Hador of academic Agadah. His name is Yonah Frankel. He wrote about a lot of the stories. It's called Sipurei HaAgadah. And then in English, and there's a lot of other books. In English, I enjoy very much the work. I mentioned Professor Jeffrey Rubenstein. He's written a lot of books called Talmudic Stories, and he's written other books, which are a very nice synopsis of a lot of the scholarship on many of the famous Agadot. And there's a ton of stuff in Hebrew. It's a very rich field, very rich, and a lot of stuff that if you're interested, and you can do your own analysis also.
Books seem like heavy books to bike between Teaneck and White Plains with, but I can give it a shot.
Okay.
Rabbi, thanks so much.
Okay,
Really
thanks
appreciate it.
everybody.
Thank you.
Lila, tell everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Hey.
Gab says hi also.
Thank you.
Thank you.